So this is more of a store thing that happens, but I'm sure something similar has happened to you in a normal purchase online. You may have noticed your cart being much more expensive than you thought it would be when you go to checkout. This is something similar. So, like with distributors and their websites, you pre-order a lot of things, and then some of them will organize it into certain specific things just to make it easier to, I guess, find stuff and assemble the order when it actually comes in. And in this case, this particular distributor orders things in Magic sets, Lorcana sets, well, they don't really have much Pokemon right now, but Pokemon sets, any other game or whatever. And then the other stuff is just in this one big order, like regular tabletop games and supplies and that kind of stuff. They don't organize it all exactly, but they set aside, especially the Magic sets. So I was going on their website, and then I noticed an order. So I saw the Edge of Eternity's order and the Spider-Man order, and they looked, the regular size of my orders. And then there was this other Magic order that was like 3 times the size, and I'm like, well, that must be the Final Fantasy order. I'm like, did I order 3 times as much Final Fantasy in total value? Or had they applied tariffs or something like that? And I'm like, that's going to be a hefty bill when it comes. And so I looked into it. I clicked on it, and I'm scrolling through, and yeah, sure enough, that's the Final Fantasy stuff. I'm like, wow, I have to spend a lot of money on Final Fantasy. But then it turns out I see some Spider-Man stuff and Edge of Eternity stuff, and there was some weird glitch in the website because like 2 hours later, it wasn't like that. But it had just kind of doubled up those 2 other sets into that order for some reason. And it was a bit of a heart attack moment when I first saw it. And it's just kind of funny. I'm like, so you've probably had something similar where you maybe, I don't know, you clicked on a quantity of something more than you intended. And then you get to checkout and it's way bigger and you're like, oh my God. And obviously at that point, it's easy to take those things out of your cart. In my case, if it had really been that large, then I would have just had to, move a bunch of money around somewhere else and try and scrounge up the money for 3 times the value than I had planned for June or whatever, because you don't really want to go to your distributor and say, oh, I can't actually pay for all of that, right? Because, you need those guys in the future to get you the things that are allocated. And when you start doing, and I haven't had to say, oh, I can't pay for that yet, because I don't think it's a good thing. And if you start down that route, then you start getting less of the product that you can sell really fast. And that could start a death spiral. I don't know if a lot of stores have that, where they suddenly decide. I've heard that they over order product they know is going to be, or they think is going to be heavily allocated, so they can get more of it when it does get allocated. They won't get allocated to the small number that they're going to get. Like, for instance, they order, 10 cases of play boosters for a Magic set that's really going to be in demand, they think. And they really only actually want, instead of 10 cases, they really only want 2 cases. And they're going to get allocated down to 2 cases. When if they ordered the 2 cases they wanted, they would be allocated down to a box or 2 or something like that. I don't know. But I've heard this from time to time that they do that. And in fact, in the earliest days of Magic, that did happen. I remember I was listening to some Magic history about the various sets from the early 90s. And from Alpha all the way to just before Homelands and Fallen Empire, basically people just could not get their hands on enough product, and all these stores were upset they just couldn't get the product that they wanted. They kept getting heavily allocated down to almost nothing, and it was basically useless sometimes, like 1 box, 2 boxes, and so they'd have to be like, the people in their store would get a maximum of 1 booster or whatever, and they just started ordering more and more and more larger quantities because they wanted their allocation to be more, right? But then when Homelands and Fallen Empires came out and Wizards had printed enough finally based on the demand that they were seeing, but this demand wasn't real demand, it was demand based on allocations. So therefore they printed too much, way too much Homelands and way too much Fallen Empires, and then these stores had to take it all. So they already couldn't move what they had ordered. They had only ordered that much based on what they thought they could get, and they could move that. And then you add to that none of them could move it, and therefore they've got to try to move it as quickly as possible, and that sends the price down. And then it basically becomes massive losses, and it nearly killed Magic. And so that's kind of another death spiral, I guess, that in a store, like you're over ordering and then suddenly you have to take it. So, if you end up with, a set of Magic that you ordered and it's 3 times what you thought it was going to be because you ordered a little bit extra when your distributor contacted you because you heard, you saw what the hype was, it would kind of give you a heart attack because you have to take that, right? Or else you're going to be in a bad position in a future time when you could sell the set. Luckily, it's Final Fantasy, and everybody really wants Final Fantasy, but I just wanted to sort of outline that, the thing when you check out and your cart's bigger than you think happens to stores too, because they get over exuberant, and you really got to stop yourself from being too over exuberant. And in this case, it was just a glitch because I don't tend to get over exuberant. I don't play the game of ordering more than I think I can move because I don't want to get allocated, because I also don't want to then be stuck with a bunch of product I can't move, because a time like that will come, and if I play that game, I'm going to be in a bad place and I'm going to be in a death spiral. So anyway, if I don't know, if you connect with this video, let me know in the comments below. Have a good day.